Most entrepreneurs believe they are building a business. In reality, looking at those businesses, they're actually not. They are building themselves into a biggest constraint that they will not know how to deal with. You see, every new client, every important decision, every hiring approval, every sales call, every crisis, absolutely everything in their businesses go through them. Then one day they wonder, but why can I not scale my company? And here's the truth behind that question. Businesses don't stop growing because they run out of opportunities. Businesses stop growing because the founder never evolved into the CEO business needed to become. One insight from a recent Forbes book article stood out for me. The CEOs who scale the fastest don't just scale their businesses, they scale themselves first. So today I'm going to show you the biggest shift every founder has to make if they ever want to build an 8 or a 9-figure company.
So essentially, you need to understand this, that most entrepreneurs are focusing on actually building companies, where the elite CEOs are focusing on building themselves. They first want to grow themselves before they actually can grow the company, where founders reverse that thinking. Most entrepreneurs and most founders are believing that first we grow the company and then we grow with the company. As a CEO thinks, I'm going to go first and then the company is going to grow with me. Okay? So entrepreneurs and founders mostly think scaling is all about more leads, we have more sales, more employees, more capital, and bigger teams. And that's only half of the actual equation. See, Forbes itself, interviewing some of the greatest elite CEOs in the world, argues that the businesses that scale the best are led by CEOs who first, and this is really important, who first change their own role from operator to strategic actual leader. The business is simply a reflection of the person leading the business itself. So it's really important to understand here that eventually the business only will grow as much as you will grow. And your business limitations will be the same limitations you have. And the same, we can also apply the same strategy and the same concept about money. The reason most lottery winners after, let's say, 3 to 4, 5 years go broke is because the money outgrow them. They were not capable of handling the money. And so what eventually actually is happening is that if the money outgrows you, you cannot handle it anymore. But what you need to understand is, in order for you to handle large volume of money coming inside of your bank account or inside of your life and you're building wealth, you need to outgrow the money that's coming inside of your bank account. So if you're only worth, let's say, 2K a month, and everything you know is around 2K a month or 3K a month, then you can handle 1 million a month. And this is the reason why an average 9 to 5 employee, let's say salary maybe 3 to 4K, 5K a month, wins a lottery, let's say they win 60 million, and eventually after, let's say, 10 years, they go broke and probably end up in a worse place where they were before. It's because they were not growing with the money. The money was growing faster than them. They were not capable of actually controlling it, managing it, investing into the right things. And the same here applies with the business. Also, if you look at the same equation happens in NBA and high performance places like NHL, FIFA, like you have UFC fighters, boxers, a lot of elite athletes. It happens with elite athletes as well. You see somebody gets contract for 40 million, and then 3 to 5 years later they go broke, they go bankrupt. Why? Because it wasn't that they weren't a great athlete, it's that the money outgrow the intelligence of actually handling it. And so the same applies here in the business. Most of the times when I look at a lot of founders is that, yes, we focus on more leads, more sales, more employees, more capital, but the business is almost outgrowing the CEO, the founder himself. And I know that that's the recipe for disaster. So if the CEO doesn't evolve, he doesn't get better, the company eventually will stop evolving too, and there will be an actual ceiling. So let's talk about that invisible ceiling. Every founder eventually reaches an invisible ceiling. Not because demand disappears, not because competitors win, but because their calendar becomes full. Every decision waits on them, every meeting needs them, every hire needs approval, every problem lands on their actual desk. So, in one of the Forbes articles, it describes this as the point where control becomes the constraint rather than the actual advantage inside of the business. Because for a lot of things, for a lot of founders in a lot of businesses, is they have this control freak. It's like nobody can do it better than me. I need to make sure that it's like quality check, quality control. I can be closing the sales. I don't trust the closer because like he could mess up and we can lose the potential revenue. I need to make sure that we deliver 100% best quality ever. And so what happens is that type of founder doesn't build the right systems to place people in those systems so the systems can actually grow and you can measure the systems by KPIs and SOPs and efficiencies. But that type of founder is more focusing for himself to be the system itself. And so what happens is at that level, your business is maybe growing, but the founder dependency is growing twice as the business. So what we need to understand here, that if you are a control freak over your business, that will later on, or maybe already now, right now, becomes the constraint rather than the actual advantage and the solution for growing the business forward. So who built the bottleneck? It's not that the business itself grew and built that type of bottleneck. It's not that the employees built it. It's not that the clients built it. It's the founder himself built that type of bottleneck, which is the invisible ceiling. So CEOs don't solve problems. CEOs design systems, don't solve problems. So what does this mean? This means is that you, as the highest leverage operator inside the business, shouldn't be focusing on the low-paying activities by solving low-paying problems. And so what you also need to understand, which is I see kind of is really strange, but after reading Ray Dalio, he describes that your best people should be focusing on the best opportunities. Okay? And so a CEO, a chief executive officer, should not be focusing on solving problems. He should be focusing on leveraging his intelligence, his insight to build and architect the right systems inside of the business so the business gets much more efficient. Because by him solving the problem means that there will be the next problem to solve, and so the next time we will have the same problem, he will have to come back and solve it again. So this is when you have the right systems, when the CEO builds the right systems, those problems don't occur anymore. So that means that problem is no longer an actual problem, because even if it shows up, we have a system for dealing with it. And this is so crucial for every CEO to build the right systems around the problems that are occurring, or the bottlenecks or the ceilings or the constraints inside the business, so we can solve the constraint, move to the next level, unlock the next bottleneck or the next constraint, solve the next constraint, move to the next level, and eventually your business consistently keeps growing. So let's get into it. So most founders spend the day asking what needs to be fixed, what is the problem, what is the constraint, who needs my attention. A CEO asks completely different questions, and these are elite CEOs. Like currently over the digital internet, you can see everybody wants to be a CEO. And you also probably see that LinkedIn is full of CEOs and founders. But just calling yourself, giving your actual name a CEO doesn't mean that you are a CEO. A CEO, I mean like real CEOs, elite CEOs running big enterprises, big companies that are doing beyond 1 million a month, okay? They ask, why did this happen? Then, what systems allowed this to happen? And then they ask, how do we prevent it from ever happening again? That's the big difference between who wants to be a CEO, who wants to be the real founder, and who is the actual CEO, okay? Entrepreneurs solve today's problems, CEOs remove tomorrow's problems. Because a CEO, elite CEO knows that if this problem happened once, there is a probability that it will happen again. And so for it not to happen again, we need to build the right system so that problem, that constraint is removed, and in a future setting, if that problem or that ceiling or that constraint or that bottleneck occurs once again, we already have a system to deal with it. Okay? So the time is the real currency, is the next big thing that I want to discuss. Harvard Business Review research and cited in the article that I found in Forbes is that executives on average spend about 62.5 hours of work per week. Okay, so leaving very little time for strategic thinking. So that means if your most time is being focused on just work, we have no time whatsoever to strategically improve the business, to also improve ourselves, to sharpen the sword, which is our knowledge, which is our skill set, which is our getting better in the business, which means we are also limiting our personal growth, which will limit the actual business growth. Okay, so most founders believe working more hours creates growth. In reality, it doesn't, because working more hours means we are operating at the same level. We never increase our potential and our operational potential. So what does that mean? That means, yes, you may consistently operate in the same way, but doesn't mean that you are actually growing. It just means that you're operating on the same frequency, on the same level. In order for you to raise the frequency, we need to enter a new frequency. And the way we enter a new frequency is by sharpening our sword, which is our skill set, or strategically operating from a different perspective, which means we are establishing our thinking time. Thinking time, strategic thinking time, where we are strategically thinking and overviewing the business and think about different things. And this is really powerful concept, by the way, because some of the most elite founders are scheduling their thinking time, which means they completely switch everything off. There's no distractions. Nobody can disturb them. Nobody can interrupt them. Nobody can take their time. Nobody can make excuse to come in and visit them for a 5-minute talk quickly. It means basically they block out everything, and then simply they spend 1 hour to 2 hours sitting in and strategically just thinking about their business. Okay. So more hours often mean you will build a company that depends on you. Because working exactly how you currently are working and not scheduling that strategic thinking time, not thinking about things on a higher frequency, on a higher level, means you are just building another dependency inside of your business, because your frequency currently offers you only information that is available on the frequency you currently are operating. You need to understand that. Every hour spent firefighting is an hour not spent designing the future. Okay? And so you need to schedule that future time, that future thinking time, every single week, because that will help you to unlock the next level inside of the business. Next one is control versus clarity. This is one of the most powerful lessons. Founders think I need to know everything. A great CEO, elite CEOs think my team needs to know everything, because you don't want to be the smartest room inside of it. You don't want to be the smartest person inside of the business. Okay? You don't want to be the smartest person inside of the room. Why is it important? Because eventually you want completely remove yourself from the business. You want to be independent from the business. You want to focus on what actually leverages the business growth. Not focusing on being the smartest person who solves absolutely everything, right? So Forbes top global CEOs emphasize moving from control to clarity, creating alignment so the organization doesn't rely on constant CEO intervention. Okay? Control doesn't scale, clarity does. When you have too much control freak on you and you want to just control absolutely everybody and micromanage and do more things, you are putting a ceiling over your business and you're locking your business inside of the jail. And so what ends up happening at this moment is, for a lot of founders, is they are too much hands-on in the business. And they are too scared to let go. And because they are scared to let go, they keep being attached to the same problems, to the same things, to the same frequency, to the same level of growth, which means they all the time are operating exactly the same level. And the business cannot access explosive growth. It's because the biggest bottleneck is control. So stop being the smartest person. The founder shouldn't be the best salesperson, the best marketer, or the best operator. They should become the best architect. There's a big difference. Architect doesn't lay every single brick. They design the building itself, right? And so you cannot be the bricklayer inside of your business anymore. You can't just be doing absolutely everything. Right now, it's more about design. It's more about what the future is going to look like, what we need to design, what systems need to be in place, what SOPs need to be in place, who do I need to hire, how can I access talent, how can I access more capital, where do I allocate most of my budget, where does the growth is. It's more about designing the right environment for the business to grow rather than just laying bricks all day, okay? So build a company that doesn't need you is the biggest gift you can give yourself, because eventually, if you are currently planning about exiting the company, let's say you're planning about big exit, then at that stage, what you need to understand is, I want you to actually ask yourself a question. Would you buy your own company right now? Would you buy it? Would you buy your company, meaning you would never ever have to work on your company and your company would still produce profitability, still will produce results, and still will produce growth? Let's say if I buy your company right now, and let's say I'm not putting my work in, you're not there anymore, would your company grow? In other aspect, another concept, let me ask you another question. If you remove yourself for 90 days from your business and you go on a holiday, there's no internet, no Wi-Fi, no phone, nothing. If you come back in 90 days later, would you still have a business? And if the answer is no, you don't have a sellable company and there's no value inside of your company. I know for some of you it will be really hard to hear that, but that's the absolute truth. In order for you to grow, you need to have a valuable company. And a valuable company means when you completely can be removed from your actual business, where the business can still be sustainable and still can accelerate growth and still can be actually scaled without you being there. Okay? So build a company that doesn't need you. This will be a little emotional, but imagine selling your company tomorrow. And that's what I already asked you. Could it survive? And if the answer is no, you don't own the business, you own a really high-paying job. So the top Forbes, top CEOs globally argue that the best CEOs intentionally redesign decision-making, empower leaders, and build systems that carry the weight they once carried personally. Okay? Your main job inside of your company is to not have a job. Your main job inside of your company is to not have a job. Right? For some of you, it's confusing, but I think you understand the message. Because you want to build 100% independency from your business, meaning your business doesn't need you anymore. You can be replaceable. And that means you have a valuable business that can actually grow. So every level requires a new CEO. What does this mean? This doesn't mean that you need to go out, hire somebody else, and let's say you're building company, you got to 5 million a month, and then suddenly, in order for you to get to 10 million, you need to get a new CEO. That's not true. But I will tell you what it means. The CEO who gets you your business to 1 million isn't the same CEO who gets it to 10 million. Different companies, different complexity, different leadership. At 1 million, you have a different company, and 10 million, you have a different company. At 1 million, you are a different person, and at 10 million, you should be a different person. So if you are operating the same way you're operating at 500K and you get to 1 million and you plan with the same mindset, same everything to get to 10 million, it's not going to happen. In order for you to build a new level, a new ground, explore new business, get new business, build new business, grow new business, scale new business, say 10 million, 20 million a year, you need to become somebody else than you currently are. And for a lot of you to be like, well, how do I do that? It's the knowledge you get, it's the people you surround yourself, it's the rooms you walk in and the rooms you walk out with what you are actually having in order you can benefit yourself. So it's really important at this level where you currently are is to ask yourself, what unlocks the next growth for me on a personal level and then on the business level? And who do I need to talk to, or who do I need to get, or who and which room I need to get into in order for me to unlock that 1% potential, unlock that 5% potential inside of myself so I can actually unlock the growth for my business. This could be going and getting a mentor. This could be going out and going with a dinner with a billionaire who gives you something to unlock the next level of growth inside of you. But you need to see completely your business differently to what you're seeing right now. And that is exactly what's going to guarantee you growth. So if you stay the same, the business eventually will stop growing just because you are not growing anymore with it. The CEO flywheel. This is your main HQ framework. You need to have better thinking, better decisions, better systems, better people, better execution, better results, better thinking. Everything begins with thinking, right? You have better thinking, you have better decisions, you have better systems, better people, better execution, better results, better thinking again, and it's like repeat. The business is downstream from the CEO. The way you think about your business is the way you execute, the way you execute, the way you get the results. And the way you get results is the way you think again, and it rinse and repeats. You understand? Entrepreneurs, just entrepreneurs, founders, startup companies usually ask, how do I make more money in the business? The elite CEO asks, what kind of person does this business need me to become? That's the big question. Who this business needs me to become right now in order for this business to grow? It's not how can this business make me money. It's like, who do I need to become for this business in order for this business to grow? Okay? Because businesses don't outgrow their markets. They outgrow their leaders. If you want to build $1 million company, build $1 million CEO first. First, you need to be the person, the individual that can be worth $1 million. Then you build $1 million company. If you want a $10 million company, then you need to become worth 10 million. If you want 100 million, then you need to become worth 100 million. If you want to build a $100 million company, become the leader capable of building a $100 million company. The company will eventually reflect the quality of the person leading it. And that's the most important thing that I want to cover, is that eventually you as a CEO, you are the main person that is going to be building the company. So you don't only need to focus on your company, you need to more sometimes focus on yourself, because eventually you will be the person that grows the company forward.